Welcome to the All Things Circular podcast, your gateway to the circular economy. Hosted by industry experts Victoria Darcy and Rich Bolger. Every episode is proof that circularity isn't just good for the planet. It's a smart business decision. Our mission is simple: to empower, to inform, and to show you how to make the circular economy work for you.
Welcome to another edition of the All Things Circular podcast. I'm Damian.
And I'm Vic Darcy.
And today our guest is Darrell Fleming-Kendall. Did I say that right?
Darrell Fleming-Kendall. That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. You know, it's a huge honor to be here and talking to you guys. So.
Oh, it's great. So we're coming to you from Vegas. And, you know, everybody's looking slightly bleary-eyed at this.
I think slightly is not an accurate statement. I look like I've been beat up. I'm pretty sure.
So Darrell is one of the organizers of the event and has taken really good care of us, but also he's a really interesting person. I had the privilege of meeting him before the event, and actually we're going to take this podcast in slightly a different direction. Even though we're coming to you from the ITAD Summit in Vegas, Darrell, you're a regenerative farmer.
I am, yeah, so absolutely.
Can you tell our listeners, what is regenerative farming?
So regenerative farming is an approach to agriculture that basically says, hey, nature is really good at solving its own problems. Humans come in and screw it all up. And then it's interesting how we take a human approach to solving human screw-ups, right? We, on the other hand, look at it and go, hey, you know what? Let's look at what nature did and then mimic that in a controlled basis on the farm. So we look at a prairie ecosystem and, you know, you have buffalo that go through and eat the tall grass. And they crap on the ground and in little piles. And, you know, after they get rid of the tall stuff, the antelope come in and they eat the smaller stuff and they leave some stuff behind. And then the birds come in and they spread the manure that's been left, eat the bugs out of that. So protein for the birds, right? And what they're putting down is NPK, which is similar to the chemical fertilizer that we spend a ton of money on. Commercial agriculture spends a ton of money on. And we can mimic that. Instead of using buffalo and antelope and birds that fly around the field, we use cows, and goats and sheep and chickens, right? And turkeys. So it's a fun little project. And, you know, we can sequester carbon, put it back in the ground and have very little impact and potentially a positive carbon impact on the world. So.
Yeah, I love that because the reason when you told me this a couple of days ago, my immediate thought went to what a great metaphor, what a great parallel that is to the circular economy.
100%, yeah. I mean, you know, when I think about what I do, right, and you joked, let's talk about your day job, right, which is, you were referring to running the ITAD Summit, but I kind of joked that I have a few day jobs, right, between the farming and the summit and things like that. You know, there's like a theme of circularity in it, right? And so, like, you know, you come to a place like this, and tomorrow I'm going to be moderating a session with John Shigarian from ERI and Jen from HP and Miranda from Temu. So you've got OEM, retailer, ITAD. So kind of getting that whole circuit. And, you know, it's amazing to think about how far we've come in terms of recognizing that we don't need to put input if we can extract resources back out, put them back in, and really just be much more intelligent, much more responsible, better stewards of the resources that we have. And those two things between the farming and the ITAD Summit, right, those themes are kind of like they pervade my life. So.
Well, they're philosophies, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it becomes down to, because one of the things we talk about on this podcast quite a lot is intent. You know, be intentional.
Yep.
And, you know, with what you're doing with the farming, that's a philosophy.
Yep.
In order to keep that ground as fertile as possible, but as natural as possible. And again, you talk about the process, and it's almost like the procession of animals that come across that land.
Absolutely.
Each leaving a footprint, but that footprint is then used by the second lot of animals and then comes across that land.
And that footprint's so important because what we didn't get into is the tilling value, the disruption that occurs when those animals go across that land also provides opportunity for those microorganisms and everything to thrive. So that footprint is really important. And I think the same is true here. And, you know, I just... you talk about it being a philosophy, and it's so easy to look at it and go, well, oh, you know, it's pie in the sky, how idealistic of you or whatever. But look, man, I mean, we're proving it in the ITAD industry. We're proving it in the regenerative agriculture industry. I mean, commercial ag hates us because we're looking at it and going, look, we're not spending millions on this chemical fertilizer that we're relying on, you know, resources from Russia for and things like that. and our soil is rich. When we plow the land, or when we're done with the land, it's not barren, right? It's good. It's thriving. The grass is growing longer. It's more lush. And I think the same thing is true of the ITAD. It's profitable. It's not an ideal. You can make money, you can be successful, and you don't have to be wasteful at the same time in order to make money. And I think I love kind of proving wrong this idea that we always have to use virgin material. We have to put these inputs in. We can be so successful doing what we're doing by being resourceful with what we've already harvested from the land.
Yeah.
How
many farms would you say are regenerative versus not in America today?
Regenerative agriculture is such a small part of what we consume, right? I mean, when you think about, the government subsidizes the big cornfields that are throwing, each corn stalk throws 4 gallons of moisture into the atmosphere, obviously raising humidity and not helping things, right? But, then you harvest all that and it's open soil that's dying, right? There's no microbiome in that soil. As you drive around and you look at cornfields, none of those, right? We believe in biodiversity. They believe in monoculture, right? It's a very different thing. So the easiest way to figure that out when you're driving by a farm is like, how many crops are they growing? How many animals do they have? How many lines of animals do they have? And if the answer is like, you can count them on less than, don't even need a full hand. They're not really kind of getting into that regenerative agriculture. It's such a small percentage. But acre by acre, we can produce more off our land than they can. So
yeah. You mentioned that, not putting in the chemical fertilizers and the impact that the creation of those fertilizers has on the land. And I want to connect that to circularity and connect that to, if we were to look at e-waste, and let's look at where e-waste ends up and what happens, but also look at mining. The mining of things like cobalt, lithium, other rare earths. I mean, it scorches the earth.
100%. And, we're really lucky. We've got an amazing panel, as I recall, tomorrow at 1:00 on critical minerals, right? And we've brought in a foremost author, Vince Beisler on that, Andrew Kroger and some others, really put together a heck of a panel on critical minerals. And it's exactly what we're talking about. I come from the larger recycling space, right? That's where I started. So cross commodities and the wastefulness that we've had with things like lithium, cobalt, all of these critical minerals and rare earths and all of those things. The rare earth is kind of a funny name because it's not really that rare, but because the cost to recycle it, the cost to harvest it, was way higher than
prohibitively high.
Than the value of the material. We were, we look at it and go, forget it. We'll just we'll get more. So now it's all sitting in our driveway in the form of slag, right? And that's crazy. When we look back at that from a national security standpoint, it's a problem. From an environmental standpoint, it's a problem. And we as an industry need to do better. We're really excited to have Andrew and his team putting on that panel tomorrow. And I think probably one of the best the industry has seen to this point. So
I think we should try and get him on the podcast.
I agree.
I can set that up for you.
But I think we can all agree that the industry is changing, right? And it's heading the right direction. Why do you think that is? Is it because there's better incentives now? Is there better education, awareness?
So I think there's a few things going on. I think, one, that the industry has matured, right? So 15 years ago, when I started in the recycling industry, this portion of it was still very Wild West. That's not to say there aren't components of this industry that are still Wild West, but it's matured, it's professionalized, it's gotten stronger and better. Larger companies have shepherded younger companies. We talk about ITAD 2.0, which is like rising tide raises all ships. We all work together. We all have a place within the circular economy, and we can specialize and work together and have partnerships and all that stuff, which we see all over the floor here at the ITAD Summit and at Mobile Disrupt as well, which is our other show that we did earlier this month. But really, I think a lot of it is that, OEMs are recognizing that they have a role in being environmentally responsible. And so they're supporting our work instead of standing in the way of it. Some of them still are right to repair issues, right? Still big issue. But there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration across the entire circle that didn't exist 10 years ago. And I think that's a big part of it. I also think technology has really driven that. And, technology has made scrap recycling of e-waste a challenge, right? We used to have literally a ton of gold in a gaylord of computers, not quite a ton of gold in a gaylord of computers, but you had a lot of gold in it, and now Todd Zegers talked about it today. Now you're lucky to get a flake or two out of a collection of cell phones, and it really just changes the math. And so it kind of forces us to look at a device no longer as feed for scrap, and instead really evaluate the value of that device, whether it is resold domestically, whether it's resold wholesale in an emerging market somewhere, and really just amp up our, again, stewardship of the resources that went into making that device.
It's a great metaphor in that, manure in terms of your farming is seen as a resource.
Yeah.
Seen as something that has a value.
Right.
Whereas you fly that to e-waste, historically it's been seen as worthless. It's been seen as a problem.
Yep.
And actually one thing that we try and do in this industry is to educate people, to increase the stewardship
100%.
product that we have brought into this world, that we have created, we have mined, we have put energy and resources into the creation of that product, and we need to see that through.
Well, and we've got a couple projects that we're working on, outside of the summit and Mobile Disrupt, that really look at ways that the individual, the consumer, businesses who are consuming electronics, right, who are benefiting day over day over day from the convenience, the efficiency, all of the things, the security that comes with, purchasing and using a laptop or a mobile device or, whatever. We're looking at ways that we can give those consumers an opportunity to take responsibility for the impact of that device, right? And to this point, we've never really had a way to do that. And we're really excited about some of the things we're putting together with that. And I think, the public, certainly businesses as part of, the SEC's, ESG reporting requirements, scope 3, all that fun stuff. I think there's a huge opportunity to make corporations leaders on the environmental front when it comes to their consumption of electronic devices, and therefore, put some investment back into technology that can help us with critical minerals and some of the other problematic streams that we've got. So,
I think that's great, Ajay. So, in terms of, what do you think electronics and what we do can learn from agriculture? Are there any lessons that you think, we could take to say, well, look, it's proven here. This is, how the environment heals itself, how the environment feeds itself.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think the first thing you can learn is the cowboy boots are way more comfortable than dress shoes. So,
way cooler looking too.
Once you start wearing them, you can't stop, even at the ITAD Summit. So, no, I think I really think just understanding the impact. One of the things that I'm grateful for is my children. I have 5 small children. They see on a daily basis the impact that we have on the environment, right? They see, if we dig up this portion of our pasture, right, to either put in like water lines or, whatever, it takes a year before that pasture heals itself and kind of gets back. They understand, they look at their food and they see it very differently. I mean, like my son, one time, we had a farmhand that was very concerned that my son said he was going to kill a chicken. And he was like, I think your kid's like a psychopath. He's trying to kill animals out here. And I was like, Austin, what, he was like, well, I want chicken nuggets for dinner. So we were going to go get a chicken. And, obviously that's not how we roll on the farm, right? There's like a much more scientific process to that, but they're very in touch with like how nature interacts. And, I really think that, the more that we can kind of connect people back to their impact on the environment around them in a tangible way, right? Like, that maybe not a farm visit, right? But, if we can get people to understand the impact of everything that they do and what that does to our environment, it really makes everything that, those folks do when they go to, the folks that are working in the ITADs, the folks that are, collecting devices, even the manufacturers that are producing the device, if we can connect them back to the impact of that device in a real and tangible way, it makes their work go from a process that has been dictated by an ISO 9001 standard to a meaningful part of preserving our planet and making our lives better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Is it time for the famous question.
Oh, go on then.
I'm going to steal your thunder, Vic, and ask you, Darrell, what is one myth that you would like to bust about the ITAD world or the circularity world?
Or even the farming.
Or even the farming world, yeah.
Oh, what's one myth I want to bust about the... So, oh man, you caught me off guard with this.
It's a bit unfair because normally we do give people a bit of a run-up to every question.
He's been busy. He's been running around.
I just want to say something that you sparked and you can think at the same time. There are instances that I've heard about of inner city kids not realising that the mince comes from a cow, or going to McDonald's and the chicken nugget comes from a chicken, and really not making that connection to actually what you are consuming has an impact and has been through a process. So when you go to say, your son wanted a chicken nugget, so he went to the chicken, I think that's great because they understand that, to eat the produce, it comes from the animal and the animal goes through a process. But I'm going to link that back to tech. And you use the word impacts because when you purchase something, you have had an impact. I purchase remanufactured products as much as I can, but I'm in this business.
Yeah.
But to then go and purchase. So for example, I'm here, and actually Damian's going to help me out. My daughter's broken her iPad because she's 8 and being able to respect the what it is. It was a refurbished product.
Yep.
And she will get another refurbished product because she's 8 and she doesn't respect and doesn't need this,
right.
the new shiny one. But it's also the impact of that device.
Yep.
Has a low, because 75% of carbon emissions on average are in the creation of the product.
Yep.
And so I know and I understand the impact that I will buy refurbished as and when I can, because those products are already in the market. And actually, hopefully our listeners will know through the various different people that we've interviewed, the products that you get that have been remanufactured are just as good.
Oh, 100%. And here's the thing is when a laptop goes bad, it's very rarely the hardware. It's the, like the software gets corrupted, whatever. I mean, Rob laughs at me, who I run the ITAD Summit with. Rob laughs at me all the time because I think the laptop that I used to put on this show has probably been refurbished multiple times. I mean, it's an old laptop and it's probably been refurbished 3 or 4 times. And, I bought it for $50 from, same thing. Yep. I come to the event. I'm like, I need a laptop. What do you got? Right. And so, it's the same sort of story. I got my myth though.
No.
So
Let's hear it.
the big myth for me, and I don't know if you want to put some soundtrack behind it, maybe like "We Are the World" is the answer or something like that. But
a bit of Michael Jackson.
Yeah. But
we are in Vegas.
But no, the myth I think really is that either you are better, keeping your competitors at bay, or that you can't work with your competitors and be successful. Because, the perfect example is our opening keynote session this morning. Todd Zegers had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker, and his response to that was like, great, I'm going to invite John Shigarian, Eric Ingebretson, and Paul Knight to join me on the stage.
For those people that don't know, they would all be competitors.
Yeah, they're all competitors. Yeah. They're all kind of icons in the industry. They're all like well-established leaders.
CEOs.
Their businesses absolutely are fighting for similar contracts with similar clients and things like that. And they're the first ones to say, look, man, when we get together, if we can improve our businesses, if we can improve the industry, and we can solidify our place in the circular economy as an industry and make the industry stronger, it's a win for everybody, right? The rising tide raises all ships. And I think, we see so many people come in here and they're like elbowing each other for space in the marketplace. And the marketplace is not a pie, right? It's more like the universe, right? It's never ending.
Collaboration.
And in what we do, and it's the power of the collective that is in the industry.
100%.
And it's the power of the collective and the knowledge base within this collective that will educate, ultimately, the consumers to say, these are the reasons why we do this. We're not trying to your point, muscle our way into a marketplace. We're trying to change things for the better.
Correct.
And the more of us that are singing from that hymn sheet, the better it is for everybody.
That's right. So there's my myth for you.
Oh, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Oh, Darrell, well, do you know what? Thank you for having us. We're having a really good time in Vegas. It's not my favourite town, but, you've actually dragged me to the Bellagio. I can do the Bellagio.
It's not a bad flight, you know. We've done some other conferences in some other hotels here in the lovely city of Las Vegas, where I look around and I'm like, it's not my city. I'm a country boy. None of them are my cities, right? But no, the Bellagio has been a great host to us, and it's a top-notch facility. So
It is, and there's some wonderful people here, and I would really encourage anybody that's in the ITAD industry, come and check this summit out. There's a lot of really great tech here. There's some innovative tech here, some innovative thinking, great keynotes. I'm going to catch the rare earth element one because that's right up my street. But Darrell, thank you so much for A, having us, and B, for coming on our podcast.
absolutely, and I think, maybe I'm wrong, but it might be the first time you ever thanked your guest for having you on your own podcast, right? So thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a blast.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. I've been Vic Darcy.
Damian from All Things Circular.
Thank you. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Please head over to allthingscircular.com to learn more.